get the show started. I'll be right. Just hang on there for me, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Won't move.
All right. Thanks, Scotty. All right. Got that going. And let's see. I need to go here. And I got this going. Dashboard on. And we need to get this on. Turn that on. And get that going. And we're getting ready to start the show. Are you ready? We got a good show for you tonight. Unknown Files, number 21. Hey, everybody, it's Outdoors Dan. We are going live in 3, 2, 1. Are you ready? Here we go. All right, welcome to this week's edition of the Unknown File Show. Outdoors Dan here, and the show is brought to you by our good friends out at Revel's in the Distillery, the official spirits of the Unknown File Show. It's file number 21 tonight, and we're going to be talking with Mr. Scott Taylor, and I'm really looking forward to this. You know what's really funny? I was talking to Scott right before the show, and I did not grab my notes. So I'm just going to have to do it like that. Let me get Scott on the line here. He's already there. Let's say hi to Scott. Scott, good evening. How you doing, Scott Taylor?
I'm doing really good. How are you, Don?
I'm doing good, And I've been looking forward to this. I just got back from Minnesota, and we got a chat for a couple times, and I told everybody, this was going to be a fun show. So I appreciate you coming on board doing it tonight.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me on your show.
We'd love to have you. Scott was, are you retired now?
Yeah, I'm retired.
Aerospace engineer, so you kind of know your way around a slide rule.
Yeah, slide rule, calculators, all that. 3D modeling.
Yeah,
fun stuff.
Now that would be cool, 3D modeling. Did you ever think that you would be a Bigfoot investigator in your life?
No, I didn't. No.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it crazy how things happen?
Yeah, it is. Everything happens for a reason. There are no coincidences. So, I just count my blessings that I get to do this.
Well, it's an exciting thing, that's for sure. And I got to tell you, I'm really looking forward to tonight's show with you. Now, you've been hunting since you were 11. Tell everybody about what'd you do growing up hunting.
Oh, I grew up in Northwest Oregon and started hunting when I was 11. Actually, I went along with my grandpa and my uncles when I was 11. And they let me shoot the 30-06. And, when you're that age, it kicks the snot out of you. But, and then 12 years old, legal to hunt in Oregon. I've started hunting then and hunted my whole life. I'm 66 and 67 now.
What's your favorite thing to hunt besides Bigfoot?
Well, I don't say I hunt Bigfoots because I research them. To me, hunting says I want to shoot one, and I don't. But deer and elk, probably elk. One of the funnest things to hunt is antelope.
Oh, I love antelope. They've got incredible eyesight. You know it?
That, and you can get in their heads. They are fun. That is the most fun hunting I've done.
And they taste good. I've actually had people tell me they didn't like the taste of antelope, and that's one of my favorite proteins out there is antelope. I love them.
Oh, it's excellent. The mistake people make is they don't get it chilled out real quick.
They don't take proper good care of it in the field. Yeah.
And the same thing with deer. People say, "Oh, deer tastes gamey." Well, yeah, you let it rot before you cut and wrap it. You cut and wrap it immediately. It's going to be good.
Yeah. Oh, you need to get out here in Iowa where they're corn fed. It's like eating beef.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, it's really good. All right, so let's get into this. How did this all start or happen for you? How did you get into to Bigfoot?
Well, I was actually deer hunting in 2005, October 20th, 2005. only about 10 miles from where I'm living now, out in a place called the Wainuchi Valley, south side of the Olympics. And we had been, I was had a girlfriend along with me, and she was hunting too, and we'd been sitting watching the clear cut until dark. And so at the end of shooting time, according to the timetable, we packed up our gear and bushwhacked out of the clear cut and onto the logging road. And I remember right after we got to the logging road, seeing a log laying alongside the road, and it had these little piles of rocks on top. And I went, well, that's strange. That looks out of place. And so we just started walking, and we were kind of talking and just walking along. And it was we got into an area where it was second growth timber, where the trees were about 4 feet thick. And all of a sudden, we run into this wall of stink. I mean, it was really bad, and it was like burning baby diapers mixed with BO urine, and
yeah, that would stink.
It was bad. And I thought, well, who's burning their garbage? And nobody's allowed to camp here. This is private timber company land. You're welcome to park at the gate and walk in, which is what we did. So I didn't say anything to her. We just looked around and kind of looked at each other and shrugged our shoulders and started walking on out. And we walked maybe another half mile. We got to this T intersection. The road intersected another road that used to be a railroad grade, and we had to take a left. And so, and it's dusky. It's starting to get dark, and we're walking along, and we got to a place where the creek ran under the road through a culvert. On the north side of the road, it was more of a pond. South side of the road, it was a creek coming out of that pond. And she says, "What the F is that?" And pointed down into the gloomy, twilighty dark, and we could hear sticks popping and like something's moving. And then I saw this big hulking thing down there, and it was kind of swaying back and forth, side to side. And my mind still hadn't clicked, as to what it was. I thought, oh, maybe it's a bear or something. And so let's go. So we kept walking, and we went maybe 200 yards, bend a corner, and just went around a corner to the right a little bit, got out of sight of that place, and suddenly this thing from up on the road, it had come up on the road after we passed, it started vocalizing, and it was the loudest, beautiful, two-tone, woo-hoo kind of a sound. You could hear it for miles, and at the first one, I shushed her up, be quiet, and we listened to it, and my mind is clicking off deer, elk, bear, any of the birds I could think of that were out there, and it was like process of elimination. That's a Sasquatch. It could be nothing else. Oh, what did we see? What did we smell? Oh my gosh! And we took off as fast as we could walk, and I got back to the vehicle, and then drove home, and I got online as quick as I could, and I found the BFRO website, Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization website, and I found a call that was very similar. It was like the same voice singing a different song.
Right.
And it was like, oh man, we had an encounter with a Bigfoot, and we got to see it. Not clearly, but we got to see it. And so my way of coping was I went to work and I told everybody. And because it was me, of course, and I'm truthful and I wouldn't lie,
Sure.
And most people went, oh, that's cool, and then a couple of people would snicker and laugh. And then little by little, some of my coworkers would come up to me one at a time and say, well, let me tell you what happened to me. And it turned out I was working with a half dozen other people that had eyeball sightings. So, no big deal. But I became voracious at reading everything I could find about it. I'd spend my lunch hours, cruising the internet, looking at the different Bigfoot sites, reading all the stories, the goodies like Cowman and Payless Crossing. And I thought, you know what? BFRO does these public expeditions. I want to go.
Sure.
And so I signed up, and that was August. They held that August 2006, and I went and I had a blast. I met, it's like meeting 30 new friends that you feel like you've known them your whole life, and you're all talking about the same kind of things. I met Bob Gimlin. He came. I met my friend and brother Mel Scahan, who's a Yakima Indian forester. He probably knows more than anybody alive about these creatures, and just had a great time. Heard vocalizations, heard wood knocks. Some people had eyeball sightings on the trip. I saw my first eye glow on a night walk. Two big orange almond-shaped eyes up about 8 feet, about maybe 15, 20 feet off the logging road. It was just awesome. A great trip. And so, becoming all enthusiastic about it, that was noticed, and so I was asked if I wanted to become an investigator. I said, sure. And so they signed me up and showed me how to use the website, how to do it, and I've been doing it ever since.
That's pretty cool. Now, I've got a bunch of people listening tonight on Facebook Live, and for some reason, I'm having gremlins all over the place tonight because I'm not getting my my messages. So I apologize to everybody. Hank, I saw you were on there. There we go. I'm starting to see some of the comments on there. Hank, Richard, David, Anita, Joe, good to see you. Lawrence, Russell, thank you very much. So I'm trying to where I'm not getting all this feedback. Hey, tell the difference between eye shine, Scott, and eye glow, because they're totally two different things. And all the folks that I know listening right now that hunt, we're all familiar with eye shine with deer and other critters. Tell the difference real quick, will you?
So when people talk about eye shine or eye glow, what they first go to is what you see when your headlights hits a deer. And it looks at you in the dark, or when you shine your flashlight in your dog or your cat's eyes, you get that reflection from inside the eyes. With us, it's that red eye look that you get when you take a picture with a flash of somebody. But with these creatures, they have the thing we call eye glow.
Right.
It's not the same thing. You can see their eyes glow with no reflected light. It can be pitch black, and maybe that's the only thing you're going to see to tell you they're there. You see those eyes looking at you. And it can be from white to green, orange, red. We don't know why the color varies, but it's coming from the sclera of the eye, the white of the eye.
Sure.
And the reason I know this is I investigated a really, really good situation out in a town called Ocean Shores, Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And the brush there is incredibly thick. So between the houses, the brush is so thick, you go 2 feet in there, you disappear. Well, that's the traditional area where the Sasquatches would come in the wintertime and hang out. It's down near the ocean. There's lots of food, lots of deer and 4 deer. And, it's like, oh my gosh, look at that. And other people that were there with him, they saw it too. But what he ended up doing, he was an old retired plumber, and he was on oxygen, so he had this bottle with him all the time and the hose and, going up his nose and that kind of thing. And he was going to cut a trail through the brush to make a shortcut over to the road so he could catch a ride into town easier. And he's going brown gray Brillo pad that's 500-600 pounds gets up off the ground. It had been laying there sleeping, and it got up on its hands and knees and it looked at him, and he thought, I'm dead. So he dropped the loppers, which was probably a good move.
Yeah,
because that took the threat away. And he just stood there, and it looked around. It looked right, looked left, and then it decided what it was going to do, and it took off with the brush on its belly and went away. So he calls the cops, and the cops came within a couple of minutes. They said, "Tell us what happened. We see all kinds of strange things out here at night." And I talked to the police officer after I investigated this. But what ended up happening was over this ensuing months, he would go out there, sometimes in the dark and sometimes during the daytime, and he'd take a little stool and he'd sit there, and it would come and sit with him. And he would tell it jokes and talk to it, and it would make cooing sounds and look at him and act like it, was enjoying the company, because it would always come. And he said at night he could see the eye glow, and this is where it came from. And he told me about how it comes from the whites of the eyes. And so there was really, really good confirmation what it's from and how it works. So he did that. He did that 14 times.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Hey, Kevin Dilly wants to know, how do you become an investigator?
Well, the first thing you have to do is sign up and go on a BFRO expedition. They have them. You can find them on the website. It's www.bfro.net, and you can find a list of them, and you can send them an email, and if they still have space, the person who's doing the organizing it will call you and interview you, and we try to make sure we're not getting people that would be a problem.
Right.
Well, yeah. So they interview you, weed out, people that might let it slip that they just want to shoot one or something like that. And you go on expedition, and if you do really good on that, you start networking with other people who went, and also keep in touch with the organizer and all that. If you have the aptitude for it and it's recognized, then somebody will sponsor you. One of the other investigators will sponsor you and get you started with it. You have to write almost like a resume. And Matt Moneymaker, he has the final say on whether a person is accepted to do it or not.
Yeah, because you got different levels at the BFRO. I mean, anybody can go. Can't anybody go on there and just see the reports and stuff? What people have reported? But isn't there like a backdoor file or something for investigators only? They call that the flats or something?
Flats, yeah.
Yeah, flats, yeah.
But it's an acronym. I forgot what it was. But anyway, that's where the reports come into, and then the investigators log into there, and they go look at what's new, and they can assign them to themselves and investigate it, write it up within that system. And then if it's something that's interesting to the public, you can request that it be published. And then they have people that will proofread them and maybe look for clarification on some things, and then they'll publish it. That's when you can see it on the public side of the website.
Gotcha, folks.
So there's on the side you can't see, we're almost to 76,000 reports.
Well, that's incredible. I mean, that's all over North America, or is that is that worldwide?
That's worldwide.
That's worldwide.
Mostly North America. Mostly United States and some Canada.
Okay. Yeah. Folks, I apologize, everybody watching on Facebook Live right now. For some reason, I am not getting your messages. I tried to go back on my phone on Facebook, but I'm getting feedback when I do that, so I apologize. I'll go back and try to get a hold of everybody, but I'm not ignoring you. Just enjoy Scott, and I'll get back with you and follow back up. So I apologize. I just want to explain I'm not ignoring anybody right now. I'm telling you, Scott, tonight it's been a day, buddy. I had Mel on the show last week, actually.
Mel Scahan?
Yeah.
Oh, isn't he awesome?
Just a really nice man. I thoroughly enjoyed talking with him. I talked to him a couple times off air, like you and I have, and he told me some stuff. It just blew my mind. But I mean, it's just, it's somebody like him who was working as a forester on the reservation, and just seeing and heard and the documentation. You and I were talking before the show about certain things. I asked you about that forestry guidebook from the federal government, and I think it was in the '60s, but it actually had a description in the guidebook from the Forestry Service. It said Bigfoot. This is a 6'7" 7 foot hairy creature indigenous to this area. That was actually in the federal guidebook for the Forestry Service, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And what was the other thing that you said that they had it listed in from the government?
Oh, up at Fort Lewis. Now it's not called Joint Base Lewis McChord. They had. I don't know if they still do it, but if you go to get permission to hunt on the base, you have to go through a class, and they hand you this pamphlet and all that, and it shows all the different animals and stuff that they have on the base, and that's one of the things that they show.
Is Bigfoot?
Yeah.
Is one of the things that are on the base.
Yeah, but here's the real, what's the word I'm looking for?
Kicker?
Schizophrenia of it.
Yeah. If
you're a soldier and you see something and you talk about it, you're going to catch holy hell. Well, they will not acknowledge it. They will tell you have to be quiet. You can't talk about it. They make it really hard on those people, so they usually won't talk about it until they're out of the service.
Well, and I know Tobe and the guys, the gang from Flash of Beauty had a gentleman on that was in the Army, and he was out in that area, and they were doing they were explosive. They were doing demolitions, and I can't remember what that gentleman's name was, but
Todd Nice.
That's it. And him and like 3 other truckloads of soldiers saw after the explosions and stuff went off. They saw 3 big creatures walk out of the timber, seeing what was going on, and 3 trucks of soldiers saw it. And but they didn't talk about it till after they got out of the service.
Yeah, and there's some wild stories from what people that were in the service saw. Well, I've investigated quite a few of those.
See, Scott and I were talking before the show, and I've heard from several people that were in the military that they know they're there. The government knows they're there, and they're suppressing it. And they said they've been out on ops where they've actually encountered them and filed reports, and it's all classified.
Yep.
Have you seen that?
Yes, they usually pull the people, separate them so they can't speak to each other, and then they interrogate them, they debrief them, and they pretty much put the fear of God in them and tell them don't talk about it.
Okay, now, like I said, Scott, I've been a hunter for 35 years, and I've never seen or smelled anything that I couldn't identify or heard. Coyotes can make so many different sounds that doesn't sound like a coyote, and that's not even counting owls and some other critters running around that I've been around. But saying that, I've been bear hunting for a long time. I've taken 9 bears with my bow. I'm not bragging. I like bear and I love to eat them. I love bear meat. But I can just tell you, bears. You get a 300, 400, 500 pound bear. I think the biggest ones I got like 425. But I didn't hear them bears come in. I seen them before I heard them. They walked so quiet on their pads of their feet.
Yep.
And and I get this all the time from people saying, Dan, and I used to say the same thing, Scott. I'll be honest with you. I was a diehard skeptic. Much as I grew up, I loved the subject. I loved the legend and the lore of it, but it's like that there's just no way with the satellite telemetry that we got out there and everything else. The trail cameras, but the year that I started doing this show, prepping and talking with folks like you and some of the biologists that are PhD biologists and stuff in the fields, I've really kind of opened up a little bit on a lot of the stuff, and the footprints are the ones that are, to me, are the most definitive proof. And there are trail cam pictures out there of Bigfoot, Now,
few.
95.9% of them are probably bogus. But I've seen some stuff that looked like a real animal.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I've got an acquaintance of mine that in his study area, he figured out where they would go from the down by the river up to a ridge line and spend the day up there. He kind of patterned them, and he put a trail camera out there,
Uh-huh.
and they found the camera, but one was messing with the camera, had its hand in front of it, basically was shaking it around while the rest of the family walked by, and it would periodically let go of the camera, and the camera would snap a few pictures. And he got pretty darn good photo of 5 of them as they were walking by.
Yeah.
And he let me have that file. I've got it. I promised him I would never let it out. I might show somebody on my computer, but
No.
I'm never putting it in a position where somebody can take it.
Well, this gentleman that I was talking to in Minnesota when I was up there this week, we were talking about, because he's a hunter too. I mean, he hunts on the res, and we were talking about how different animals can sense EMF. I mean, I'm a firm believer that deer, turkey, and bears and all can. Bears have really bad eyesight. They got incredible nose. They can smell better than a white-tailed deer. And they can hear pretty good, but their eyesight's not that good. But I know animals can detect EMF, electromagnetic fields, and I mean the reason I know that is because there's a company. I mean, Scott, you're a hunter. You've heard of Hex suit?
Yeah, I got one. I got a suit.
You got a Hex suit. What does it? What does that do? It blocks EMF, right?
Right. Yeah. It's a walking Faraday cage.
Right. Absolutely. So all those trail cameras emit EMF.
Yeah.
So, when people say, "Well, why are they not getting picked up or something?" If they're as good as a deer, maybe they can see the fields.
Well, there's that. Their eyes are also they're set up for nocturnal. They're adapted to be nocturnal, so they can see a wider spectrum of light than we can see. So they can pick up that infrared that we can't see. They can see it.
So the infrared on the cameras.
Yeah, the
I got
infrared on the camera. So it's like, hey, here's the camera. And a trick I learned. I was with a guy named Rick Germeau, and he was part of the Olympic project at the time.
Right.
And we had to bushwhack in a mile or so up in the Olympics to pick up a camera that had been left there for several months, and we were having trouble finding it. So I took my digital, regular camera, and I turned it on, and I'm just looking through the viewfinder until it tripped, and I could see the orange glow, or not orange, but pink glow in my viewfinder, but I couldn't see with my eyes. But it enabled us to be able to pick up on where it was and go find it. So they see more than we see. They do seem to have some ability to pick up on that electromagnetic field that is put out. Maybe even there's some sounds that we can't hear that they might be able to hear. Plus, they're always watching you. Nobody goes in the woods without being detected. So if they're around, they're going to see you before you even know they're there. So they might watch you put the camera up too, so they know where it is.
Sure.
Okay. So yeah, cameras are a deal breaker most of the time, and just avoid them.
Well, that's what Tobe Johnson. I listen to Tobe stuff a lot, and Tobe said they get way more results with audio recorders than they do photography. For some reason, they don't mind the audio recorders.
Right, they don't mind that at all.
Yeah. David Bellis is listening or watching tonight, and I'm just popping on Facebook when I can, folks. I'm not able to see the live feed because I'll get interference. But he says that Scott, has there ever been any evidence found as bones or like such as bones or like? Love the feed this evening's show. Thank you guys.
So we found poop.
You found Bigfoot scat.
Yeah. Bigfoot scat. Yeah, there's nothing else it could be. I know what bear crap looks like, and everything else out there either leaves pellets or small stuff, and this is like a human poop as big around as a pop can. So we found that. As far as bones go, we don't know what they do if they're dead for sure. There is a book called Enoch, written by Autumn Williams out of Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a guy down in Florida who befriended a clan of Bigfoot, and they allowed him to see a burial of an infant. And what they did was they dug a hole, they buried the baby, and then they planted a tree on top of it. So, tree grows up, gets real big, nobody's ever going to look under that tree. So that was, one example of how they would hide them so well that we would never find them.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I was talking to a buddy of mine, and I said, listen, I can't prove these things are real, and I can't prove they're not. I would just love to experience something sometime personally. But I said, as far as not finding them, if they're hominids, if they're somewhere in between us and something else, Scott, I have no idea what they really are. Okay, but I mean, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? If they are like humans, because like Mel and Don and some of these other people, they say they're people. They say they're people. So what? So why wouldn't they bury their dead or hide their dead?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. They would. And they are people. I mean, you talk to any native tribe, they will tell you that they're people. Leave them alone. And they know what they are. They lived with them far longer than we have. And if you ever get a tribal person to open up to you,
mm-hmm.
Zip your mouth and listen. Listen for all you got, because if they're going to open up and tell you stuff, you can take it to the bank. They're talking from experience, and it's experiences that go back hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Well, no, I know. Like I said, that was the fastest hour and a half when I was with Don and his girlfriend the other day in Minnesota. It was fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And he had 10 or 11. I put pictures on Scott. You and I are buddies on Facebook now, aren't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Look at those pictures I posted, because he had 12 sets of prints that he got up there.
I saw those.
Yeah, those are amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And why is it I'm starting to see some fractions or factions. I don't know how you would say that within the community. Some people are in this corner, some people are in this corner, and then some people are in this corner. And then they don't want to. It's like anything with humans. They have their opinion, and you're not going to change their mind, I guess. But I just don't. North America does not have any primates.
No.
We've never had primates in North America, right?
Right.
Okay. That's what I thought. Because
nothing in the fossil record. Not like there is in Asia and Africa.
Okay, that's what I thought. So, what do you think, like when I was talking to Don, he said that they saw a lot of energy or lights or stuff they just couldn't explain on the res. I mean, he's in the woods all the time. Because, they've got hundreds of thousands of acres there on the reservation. And what do you think what is that energy that's whenever they have a sighting, there's some of that usually around? What is that?
Well, it's definitely got something to do with them. Let me just say, kind of set the table a little bit. When people first start getting into studying Bigfoot, Sasquatches, forest people, whatever you want to call them, the go-to place for most people is that they're a great big wood ape.
A wood ape.
A wood ape. And then as they study more, they start to realize, wait a minute, there's more to this. They exhibit behaviors that are more like people.
Right.
They don't have tails. They have faces that look like our faces. They have differences. They have, ratios, arms to legs, and, arm length and to the torso length, that kind of stuff. That's different from humans, statistically different, but they exhibit human behaviors, and the more you study, the more you realize that's true. And you go, okay, well, then maybe they're just a caveman, a relic hominid. That's where some people are. But then the more you get into this, you start walking this path of discovery, and they'll take you to some places where the term that got coined out here was the woo stuff, and that's what most people would call the paranormal.
So that gets into the lights and energy and stuff.
That's the lights and the energy, and I could talk about that because I know all about that stuff, a lot about that stuff. Nobody knows it all, but I know a lot about that because I've experienced a lot of that stuff. But that's the kind of thing that if a person is really interested and got an open mind and wants to hear about it, yeah, I can sit down and explain it to them. But for the general public, it's too much. Just the idea of Bigfoots in general is a lot for most people to accept. So you have this, you talked about faction. You have this faction that is comfortable with them being maybe a caveman, a wood ape, a relic hominid, but they can't take it any further. Their minds just won't let them accept anything further. And then you got other people who are taken further, actually by them, by the Sasquatches through experiences. If you get out and you do this a lot, and you find a place where they're around, and you go there month after month after month, and you do the same thing over and over and over again, they'll interact with you, and then you're going to find out that there's a lot more to them than just a dumb wood ape. But that is a journey each person has to walk themselves.
Well, I mean, if it was a primate, wouldn't they be easier to find?
They would be easier to find, yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Eric wants to know, Gary Peck, is Gary still doing bear hunts? Yes, Eric, Gary is still doing bear hunts at Bear River Guide Service. That's who I was walleye fishing with, buddy. Yeah. So, I struck. Here's the thing. I think it's a flesh and blood animal or hominid. That's if it's unequivocally out there. That's what I think it is. Now, after talking with several people that are Native Americans, and I didn't know this until I started doing my research, Scott. I believe almost every Native American nation has a word or a name for Bigfoot or Sasquatch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's got to be a tie-in to the spiritual side of that as well.
There is, yeah.
So I could understand or relate to that.
What I've heard the Native Americans say is they're the man of worlds.
Say that again.
It's the man who walks in two worlds.
So they split time.
They can be in our physical world. You see them, people see them. They're, walking around. One I investigated just a few months ago, walked right across the road in front of the gal. She slams on her brakes, almost hit it. You see them like that. They're still like that.
Yeah.
But they have other abilities, and the native, and they're more. They would call them spirit beings. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They have this ability to do what's called cloaking, and I've seen it myself, and it's like on the movie Predator, where you can kind of see a shimmering where the thing is, but you can see through it.
Mm-hmm.
They do that, and
well, how would they do that? Is that an energy thing?
Well, that's the big question. A lot of people think it's vibrational. It's that their bodies are vibrating at a frequency that's so much higher than ours that they wink out, like an airplane propeller. If an airplane is sitting there and it's not running, it's the propeller.
Right.
When the engine starts to turn, you can still see the propeller to a certain point. When it fires up and it's going at 1,500 RPM or 2,000 RPM, it vanishes, it disappears. You can't see it.
Yeah.
You know, and so if you take a bead that can change its vibratory frequency, could it do the same thing? I know somehow they're doing it. Like I said, I saw one do that, like the Predator, walk across the road, a trail in front of me. A gal named Barb Shoup here in Washington State got a little video clip of one doing that.
I saw that on YouTube. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, Barb's a friend of mine. I remember seeing that video the day after they took that video. You know, that's not a doctored up, conjured up thing. That's real. I know several people who have watched them go from, you know, a lot of hunters and other people talked about, yeah, I saw it walking away from me and then it just vanished.
It was gone.
It's good.
Mel talked about that, Scott. Mel talked about that, Scott. They were trailing one in snow, and the tracks just stopped.
Yeah, and that's another level of the woo factor. It's more than just going invisible. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, that's crazy. Hey, can you hang on? I gotta get a break in here real quick. Can you do that for me? All right, I went a little long tonight before I took a break, folks, because I've just been waiting to talk to Scott for so long. So you hang on. We'll be right back. Let me get this going, and don't go nowhere. No flippy floppy. We'll be right back on the Unknown File Show with Outdoors Dan on the Outdoor Call Radio Network.
Whether it's camping, hunting, or fishing, you want your camping setup to be easy and your stay.
Hey everybody, I'm sorry I can't see the comments on this. I'll get that fixed. I don't know what setting changed or something, but I'm trying to look it up on Facebook to see.
Use and design each product to make
my feed keeps cutting out.
You'll want to remember they carry great.
I don't know, Russell. I don't know what to tell you, buddy.
This fully enclosed
pal.
Sleep shelter combines the comfort of a standard sleeping cot.
You'll be able to go back and watch it again, Russell.
Campsite features several models of tent cot units, including single and double units. They also specialize in sleeping bags, camping tables, cooking.
Or Russ, hey, go to the app and watch it if you can, or listen.
With over 17 years of field testing, great outdoor gear products, Camprite is the right choice to make adventures not only comfortable, but also carefree. Check out all these Camprite products at your local Sportsman's Warehouse or anytime on the web at camprite.com. That's camprite with a K.com.
You're heading out on your morning hunt well before sunrise, so you can stay undetected from that giant you've been chasing all season. Wouldn't it be nice to know exactly where your stand or blind location is without letting anyone... Hope everybody's having a good Thursday night.
Have you ever heard of
really
Onyx?
Bugs me. I can't
Onyx
see your
is
comments
one
on
of the most
here.
important pieces of hunting gear
I'll get
you
that
can
fixed.
use and always have with you.
The Onyx Hunt app allows you not only to get from your truck to your hunting spots, it also allows you to mark and save your parking spots, scrapes, food plots, rub lines, or some possible next stand locations. The Onyx Hunt app is also a great way to see your property and know where you stand. Onyx is a mobile app that you can take anywhere. It's recognized by game wardens all around the country as a valuable hunting tool. So, if you want to always know where you are and have the ability to save information that will help you be a better hunter, go download the Onyx Hunt app at your app store today.
Heading to your favorite outdoor spot? Is your hunting, fishing, or utility knife ready for any task? Well, if you used the original
One more and we're back.
sharpener before you left, you bet they are. The Work Sharp Knife and Tool Sharpener is designed to sharpen every knife you own. By using changeable, flexible, abrasive belts, the sharpening system is able to sharpen a variety of knives, including curved and serrated knives, tonto blades, fillet knives,
Why does that not work?
axes, and even kitchen knives. The Work Sharp Knife and Tool Sharpener does this with precision angle sharpening guides and flexible abrasive belts to ensure the proper 20-degree angle every time. Each Work Sharp Knife and Tool Sharpener is assembled in the USA by a family-owned and operated company. Customer service is always a call away. So if you love the outdoors and depend on a sharp knife, consider checking out one of the Work Sharp Knife and Tool Sharpeners or the Work Sharp Guided Field Sharpener at a store near you, or anytime at WorkSharpTools.com. That's WorkSharpTools.com.
Let's talk about a story. An Iowa story about a dream that took several years to come true in Osceola, Iowa. It's the story of Revelton Distilling Company. These fine distilled whiskeys, gins, and vodkas were born from the labor of Rob and Christina Taylor. It's amazing hearing the customers' descriptions of how unique each bottle looks and how each spirit tastes and satisfies with every sip. From the honey whiskey to the whiskey and cream, or the robust mulberry gin, American gin, or vodkas. Revelton Distilling visitors can't believe the flavor profiles the mixologists are creating at the distillery every day. Revelton Distillery is open Wednesday through Sunday in Osceola. They're located at 1400 West Clay Street, right off I-35. Revelton Distillery fine spirits are also available at your local grocery and other retailers around Iowa. Please check them out online at reveltondistillery.com or visit them at the distillery. If it's time to celebrate or just time to sit back and unwind, well, then it's time for a Revelton moment.
All right, welcome back to the Unknown File Show with Outdoors Dan on the Outdoor Call Radio Network. My guest is Scott Taylor, and we're talking about the big fella tonight. Scott, you still there?
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
All right, buddy. Thanks for holding through there. Wendy wants to know, how many times have you seen or been around them that you can verify?
I have seen 6 clearly, maybe a 7th, but I'm not sure about that one. Because it had the physique of a man, but it jumped across a ditch that was like 10 feet wide. So when we got up there to where it was like, I'm not sure that was a guy, but 6 of them clearly.
Has any of them ever been aggressive?
No.
No, they've all been docile.
Well, they've been playing with us more than anything else.
So did they like the interaction, Scott?
They seem to. When we do a BFRO expedition, at least in Washington State, it seems like about 85 or 90% of the trips we have something happen. Somebody gets to see one. We find footprints. We hear vocalizations. Maybe come into camp and poke people through the tent. That kind of thing. When you get a group of people together that their whole focus is on them, they get the message. And they'll, in their own way, they'll come in and interact. Sometimes it's real furtive and not, real overt. Just like almost in your face, especially when everybody's asleep. They're like right in the camp.
So I got to ask, how many times have you had somebody sleeping and they're poking through the tent and they just start screaming and run out and take off?
Usually when they're poked through the tent, they don't get up and run outside because they're afraid to go outside and see what it is.
So they just sit in their sleeping bag and shake.
Yeah.
That'd probably be a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah. I know of several people personally that their heads were right up near the fabric of the tent, and so they got a couple of fingers poked at them. I know one person, they saw a finger poke the fabric of the tent. They grabbed the finger from the inside of the tent and held on to it. And then it decided, okay, well, I'm done with you holding my finger, and it pulled its finger out. But yeah, they'll come up and get real close. They're curious. They want to know what's going on.
Has anybody ever thought about making a campsite? If you got an area that's a hot spot, okay, and you think there's activity in there, okay, you go and you make a campsite, but you dig out like little pits and cover them like a hive where you're hiding down in there and you're filming the campsite. Has anybody ever tried to do that to see if you could capture any of this on film?
Yeah, that was tried on an expedition, and a lot of work for those guys digging the hole. Ended up where the activity was not too far from there, but everybody else got to see them on the thermal, and the guys that were in the pit were just hunkered down, didn't see a thing.
Didn't see nothing.
Yeah. Like I said, they watch you. You're not going to fool these guys. You're not going to fool them.
Well, I had Mark Parker on the show. I think he was like one of the first shows we had on, and Mark was talking about going, and I can't remember the gentleman's name. It's that friend of Tobe's, on the Owl Moon Lab, and
Oh yeah, Daryl.
Daryl. Thank you. That's it,
Yeah.
Daryl. And they were going to where they were getting a lot of activity where they were getting stuff on recordings and stuff. And Mark said he had a thermal scope with him, and they took some offering stuff out there, some food, and he said that the apple was there. They put apples out, if I remember right, and the apples were there, and then he saw a twig move, and then one of the apples moved, and he said he reached up with the thermal, and he could actually see it on the thermal.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. There's been a number of them caught on thermals. I've got a little video clip of a younger one on thermal down at right not too far from here. Boy, they're fast. They move.
Well, I bought a FLIR unit that's got recording in it. Mm-hmm. It's a monocular. I can't remember the model number, but it takes pictures or it takes video. So if you're out there and something's going on, are they gonna sense that FLIR, or you got a good chance of maybe getting some video on that?
You got a good chance. A FLIR is real passive. It doesn't put out a light beam of any kind, and they work pretty good. I've got a FLIR too, one of the older ones, but it'll record also. FLIRs work pretty good, and if you see one, you realize how even at night they keep cover between you and them. They don't just walk right out in front of you very often.
Well, like you were talking off before we got on the phone, where you had one just stand up next to you in a grassy area. You were walking out. And Mark said that's how he had his encounter. He was elk hunting, and he thought there was a big stump or something down there, and it just stood up. And he had one walking behind him as well, popping brush. Yep. So I mean, so when you're out hunting, when you go elk hunting and stuff, I mean, elk when they're coming through, I mean, if they're not chirping or bugling, they're all, they pop brush. I mean, they're not very quiet when they're coming through. I mean, so how many times? I mean, are you always on the alert to look for the big guy while you're out there too?
I'm always paying attention to that as I hunt along. I'm looking for stick structures and glyphs and rock piles and just little indications, tree twists, things like that let me know that they're in the area. Mm-hmm. I'll oftentimes send some positive vibes their way, saying, in my mind, I'm here to go hunting. I'm not here to bother you. I mean you no harm. I have a rifle, but it's not to shoot you. That kind of thing.
Well, that's what Mel said to do. He said to say hi, introduce yourself.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna start doing that. I'm gonna start when I go bow hunting. That's what I'm gonna start introducing myself.
They'll understand you.
Yeah, I don't know if we have any activity here in Central Iowa. I know we've had 7 or 8 reports in Iowa, but I don't think there's anything close to where I'm at. But you never know. I would just love to hear a whooper. Some of the when I was talking to Don in Minnesota, he said that they're actually they've got recordings of that samurai chatter up there now too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The ones Ron Moorhead did with Sierra Sounds.
Yeah.
He said that they're hearing that on the res now.
Cool.
That is pretty. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard it myself. Actually, on my first expedition, it was they were watching us from a couple hundred yards away, and we heard the chatter like that. And it was like, oh, that's cool, At that time, I was still new enough; I didn't know anything about the Sierra Sound.
Right.
But I was still a newbie. But they do that. You hear whispering. People say, "Gee, I heard a couple of people whispering in the bushes, and then I should have been able to hear what they were or understand what they were saying, but it was in a language I didn't understand."
Right.
Oh, that's reported often.
So if you were going to tell somebody if they wanted, if they were wanting to go into an area of the country that had a higher percentage. I guess the Pacific Northwest is going to be the higher percentage in sightings and stuff. But from everybody that I've talked to, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, they're saying don't go out there to look for them. Just go out there and enjoy nature, and your chances of having an encounter or something happening are greater if you do that than you try to go out and find one.
I would agree with that. If you're going to try something like that, it's got water, ponds or stream. They seem to they get around that, and a human would too. If you're trying to live out there, you would do the same thing.
So you approach it like you're going hunting. You want to look for cover, bedding, and food.
Right, and you find a place that's not it's kind of off the beaten path where there's not going to be a lot of people driving up on you, and you go there, regularly. I mean, it's got to be like clockwork. The last weekend of every month, you're going to go there for 4 days. And you do that year after year after year. And what will happen is the ones that live around there will recognize that you're a familiar face, and they're going to be curious about what you're doing, and they'll come in and they'll watch. They just love to watch. And if you've got kids, they love to watch kids, and this may sound sexist, but if the gal that you're with is blonde, they'll draw more attention than than if it's a brunette, so to speak.
So
they seem to love the blondes.
So Scott, you're saying Bigfoot prefer blondes?
Yes, they do.
I'm not laughing at you. I just think that's funny. So
it happened so many times.
Yeah.
Last expedition I was on last summer, one of the couples that pulled up there, the gal had this beautiful blonde long hair, and I says, if anybody's going to see one, it's you. And why is that? Because you got blonde hair.
Yeah.
And sure enough, she's the one they came and looked at.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy.
She got to see it.
Yeah.
I mean, clear as day, she got to see it.
Have you ever? I don't know. I mean, there's probably areas that all over the country where they're. Mel said that they migrate. They actually migrate with foods. Like in the winter, they'll go higher, they'll go lower, and in the spring they'll go higher because it's cooler up there in the berries. They'll actually move. Their movements are like a regular animal as far as they go where the food sources are changing. And I never even thought about that, but that makes sense to me that they would migrate, right?
Yeah.
Do you think they migrate more than just? Do they go from state to state, or do they stay in one area? What's your opinion on that?
I think it's more regional than anything else. They go from high country to low country.
So they'll stay within a couple 100-mile area, then, you think?
Probably, yeah.
How many do you think is actually in this country?
That's just a guess, but and I got into this debate with Dr. Meldrum.
Mm-hmm.
If you kind of assume that people don't see them very often, but a lot of people are seeing them,
right?
Then that means
you cut out on me, Scott.
Oh, what I'm saying is people see them almost every day. Well, if they're as elusive as we know they are and don't want to be seen, but yet people are seeing them every day somewhere, in just Washington State, there's got to be a lot of them.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more than people realize. There's so many reports that we get, and they're so widespread. I cover the southwest corner of the state more than anywhere else, and they're everywhere, and they can be close into town. I mean, right on the outskirts of town. They've even been seen walking through town at night. But how many there are? My guess was like 20,000, in Washington. But then, the opposite argument is, well, it can't be more than 75 people or 75 of them. Well, you got to have a breeding population. You can't have a population that's so small that you don't have genetics.
Yeah, I get that. And I'm hearing more about multiple reports of families too, which is kind of neat.
Oh, yeah.
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 Hey, I got about a minute left, Scott. Real quick,
Okay.
if someone wants more information about the BFRO, what's the best way for them to go check some of this stuff out?
Okay, just go to www.bfro.net and you go to their website, and they have a lot of resources there. They have audio recordings. They have a sketch program where they have people that are doing sketches. There's a little bit of video in there. They can read the reports that have been recently published. They can get links to the stories, that are out there.
Or if they have an encounter, they can file a report there.
They can file a report, absolutely. And here's what I recommend if you're going to do that. Write it all down on a Word document.
Mm-hmm.
Get it all set up, written like you want it. Then you go in to their tool on their website, and you just start copy-pasting the information in. Because it has a feature where it will time out. And if you're going to sit there for an hour while you compose something, it'll time you out.
I got you.
And you'll think you've submitted a report and nothing's gone in. We have to weed those out. Usually we have to just delete them. So, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Figure it out first, copy paste it in.
All right. Hey, let me know what's going on. I'd love to get you back on the show sometime.
Anytime.
Yeah, we'll do that. All right. Yeah, I'm going to call you back here in a minute, just to say goodnight. But thanks for doing the show tonight, Scott, and we'll talk to you soon, all right?
You're welcome.
There he goes.
All right, you take care.
Yep.
Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate you. There he goes, Scott Taylor, everybody. All right, I got to get out of here. That is going to wrap it up for the Unknown File show, and it's always a lot of fun enjoying the unknown with you guys every Thursday night at 7. I will get the messenger fixed so I can hear and see what you guys are saying or thinking. I apologize for that. And till then, just hit me up on Facebook or shoot me an email at outdoorsdan@mac.com. God bless you. And until next time, we'll see you on Saturday. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. See you, everybody. Thank you.